Welcome. In this video, we'll be discussing how to use the multiplication property of equality to solve some equations. So the first thing I want you to realize is there are many ways to write x. And you're going to see each of these ways as you solve more and more equations. So let's start with the left-hand side, 1 times x. Well, in math, when you have a coefficient being multiplied by a variable, a lot of times we drop the multiplication sign and it just becomes 1x. But 1 times anything is that thing. So 1x, 1 times x, is just plain old x. So these three are the same. So a lot of times when you're solving for a variable, you may end up with 1x, but realize that you've probably achieved your goal if your goal was just to get x alone. So the other thing I want you to be aware of is in math, we do something confusing. We use the word cancel to mean two different things. And so I want you to realize how we use it and that it does actually mean two different things. So the first way that we use the word cancel in math is referring to sort of addition and subtraction. So what I mean by that is, suppose I have a number 3 and then I subtract 3. Well, what we would say is that the 3's then cancel each other out. Okay, why do they cancel each other out? Well, in the addition-subtraction sense, they make 0. Okay, so they're gone. So they add no value. Okay, another example of that is if I have a plus negative a, again, a number plus its opposite or a number minus its opposite is always going to make 0. So what we'd say is a and negative a cancel each other out. The multiplication division sense, a lot of times the numbers are canceling they're canceling in a slightly different way. So this would be the example where if I have 3 and I divide it by 3, well, now I'm not getting 0. What I'm getting is 1. Okay, so same thing, if I have a divided by a, what we say is the a's cancel each other out, but they cancel each other out in this sense to make the number 1. So we say the 3's cancel each other out back here, but they cancel each other out to make 1. So when we use the word cancel, we could mean either one of these two things. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1. So again, if you didn't watch the video on solving equations using the addition property of equality, go back and take a look at that because I'll be using the same principles here. So our goal again is to figure out which number t stands for in number 1. And so if I look at t, my job is basically to get t alone. Now, in order to get it alone, I have to get rid of this division by 4. Well, if I want to cancel out division by 4, or if I want to get rid of division by 4, what I can do is the opposite of division by 4, which is multiply both sides by 4. So I'm going to multiply the right side by 4. But when I multiply one side of an equation, I have to do the same thing to the other side to maintain balance. So I have to multiply the left side of the equation by 4 as well. And now let's see what's left. So 4 times 52 is 208. And on the right-hand side, what I have is a situation where I'm dividing by 4, but then right after that, I'm timesing by 4. I'm multiplying by 4. Well, those are just going to cancel each other out. So all that's left is t. Now, did you catch it? I said cancel, and now I'm using the cancellation in the multiplication division sense. So all that would be left when these 4's cancel, would be 1t, which is the same as t, as we discussed at the beginning. Alright, let's take a look at number 2. So number 2, my goal is to get x alone so that I can figure out which number it stands for. And so what I'm going to do to achieve that is I have to get rid of this division by 7. So I'm going to multiply by 7. But because I multiplied one side by 7, I also have to do the other side by 7 as well. So 7 times 12 is 84. And then just like before, if I'm doing division by 7 followed by multiplication by 7, the 7's will cancel out and make 1. So what I'd be left with is 1x, which is the same as just x. Alright, I want you to try number 3 and 4. Pause the video and then restart it when you're ready. So number 3, again, we're going to multiply both sides by -3. If I want to undo division by -3, I have to multiply by -3. Those -3's will cancel and make 1, so t is what's going to be left. On the other side, I'll be left with -36. And for number 4, what I'm going to do for number 4 is multiply both sides by -6. Now you might be asking, well, why would you do that if the 6 is positive? Well, what I realize is that if I multiply a negative by a negative, I'll be left with a positive overall. And remember, my goal is to get just plain old x alone. I don't want negative x, I want plain old x. So what's going to end up happening is the 6 and the -6 this time will cancel, but I'll be left with -1. And then when I do -x times -1, that's just plain old x. And on the other side, -6 times 14 is going to give me 84.